Hello, good morning. Welcome, Jennifer. Thanks for being here. Hello, Sydney, Betty, Dorothy, Maddie, Michelle. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. You are in the Highly Sensitive People Club. And today we are going to talk about thinking about 2021 and looking back to what this year looked like for you. I have often gotten to this point in time, this time of the year, and choose to just look back and notice in a very self-reflective way what has been working for me and what has not been working for me. What did I let go of in 2021 that was not really serving me? And what did I add in that really helped and made me feel more successful in my wellness, health, and also my HSP health? And so today I would just love to invite the conversation around what that looked like for you personally. And I'm going to share. Good morning, Joy.
Good.
And I am definitely going to share a lot of different things that I had added in and feel really successful about adding in. So we have been doing a series in the HSP Club called Elevate HSP Voices. And Joy, who I just brought up here on stage, was actually the first one that I did for that interview series. And I am traveling on Thursday, tomorrow. So I've got a little bit of nervous energy the day before travel jitters. And this is my last room that I'll do before Thanksgiving. So I may do a gratitude room. I'm going to be 2 hours behind my normal time. So I'll see what all of that looks like. But I think sharing gratitude during the week of Thanksgiving would be a great way to lift our vibration and celebrate what we're grateful for. So I will be adding a room hopefully next week. It would be Monday or Tuesday if I get that in. But really quickly, I'll just go over who I am. And for those of you who have been in this room before or in the club before, I have been hosting weekly rooms, and the topic is always highly sensitive people, hence the club. And I created the club because I wanted highly sensitive people to be able to find us and to be able to connect and build community and really be seen and validated through one another. And this is a really safe space to be as a sensitive person, an empath, HSP. And I think as we build this community, the one feedback that I always hear from other HSPs is that they just have a great time in this space and feel validated, seen, and heard. And basically, this is also, I want to tie this into Elaine Aaron, who I basically get all of my HSP research from, has 5 necessities for HSPs. And one of those is to be around other HSPs. So this is something I'm really passionate about and I'm really excited about. And over the months of doing Clubhouse, everything has always evolved and changed because Clubhouse has changed. I have had the privilege to meet such wonderful HSPs all over the globe. And this is what I love about this app, that we can really be present. We can be comfortable at home. We don't have to turn on a screen. We don't have to engage with a visual input. And that's what I love about Clubhouse, is just being here to share and connect and talk with fellow HSPs. So I brought a few of those HSPs up here to share as well. And I will go ahead and also, sorry, I can tell my head is halfway in vacation mode, so I apologize. Um, my name is Julie Staub, if you've not met me. I'm an HSP, an empath. I'm a certified holistic wellness coach. I did that through integrative nutrition back in 2005 when I lived in New York City. And I, in 2018, I came across the movie Sensitive, actually from a wellness client, and she discovered she was a highly sensitive person. I discovered it at the same time as well with her. And since then, I have just had this passion to speak about this trait, advocate for this trait, educate others, not only non HSPs, but HSPs that don't know they're an HSP. So that's where Highly Sensitive People Unite came from. We were doing that room every single Thursday and then switched gears for the fall season to kind of include an experimental practice that we can do here in Clubhouse, because I was hearing from a lot of HSPs that they were in overwhelm, their plates were full, they were going through a lot of life transitions. And so I wanted to create a space where we could go and fill our cup, a space where we could come into the room and feel better when we left. And you can get a taste of that in the replays, which are on in this room as well. So if you go to my profile or you go to the HSP Club, you can do so by clicking the little green house at the top of the screen. You can actually scroll down past the description and you'll see replays housed in the HSP Club and also on my profile. So that is a new feature that Clubhouse brought out. We can also post links, which I may do as I pass the mic to other speakers. So there's just a whole bunch of new features that Clubhouse has released, and it has just made this experience even better. So in this particular room, what I would love to do is pass the mic to Joy, Allison, and Rachel, and maybe we can just get started with the question, what did you ditch in 2021? And I want you to be thinking about what was no longer serving you. What did you need to let go of? What was maybe impacting your health and wellness? And you recognize that this is something that you needed to stop or let go of and just ditch. And I can just share personally, one of those things for me was alcohol. And I don't know how other people or other HSPs respond to alcohol, but as I've gotten older and as my hormones have changed, I definitely am impacted by alcohol in a different way. And I also have different ongoing health issues where alcohol just doesn't really work for me. I enjoyed it. I drank a lot of it over the pandemic. And as we came out of the heaviness of the pandemic, I felt the need to kind of let that go. It was something that was really draining my energy. It interrupted my sleep. It interrupts your hormones. And also, I should be on an anti inflammatory diet with arthritis and different autoimmune issues. So, if this is something that resonates with you, I also just recently did a podcast with my friend Alison Cullen, and she has a podcast called You Do Woo, and we have a conversation about what that journey has been for me. So if you're interested, I'd be happy to send you a link, or maybe I'll get it up here in the Clubhouse room. But for now, I would love to pass the mic off to my courageous mods that hopped up here and were spontaneous with me today to get this room started, and just maybe quickly introduce yourself and share one thing that you maybe ditched, or if you want to look at it from a different perspective, one thing that you added.
Good morning. Thank you, Julie. I love this question. This is Joy, and I am an emotion educator, essentially. I do emotional intelligence training. I work a lot with people in the business world, so I specialize in workplace relationship and career development, leadership coaching, and I have an online course called Emotions at Work, and I'm the author of a book called Emotions and Owner's Manual. So you get that I am very passionate about our feelings. And this year, I I'm a solo business person, and yet I work best in relationship with other people. And I've always kind of struggled about the business aspect of what I do, and yet I've never been one to kind of have a traditional job. So I had uh, in a moment where I said I just can't keep trying to, because I've succeeded in certain levels, but never had the success that I really wanted. And trying to do traditional marketing and planning and strategies and all of that always makes me really tense. Um, and so I started working with a coach who is all about letting your best life live itself through you. And without, so I let go of all of the shoulds and which also made me feel bad about myself because I thought, well, I'm just, I'm not as capable as other people, even though I know the work that I do is extraordinarily valuable and has a tremendous impact. So it was frustrating. I could have a certain level of impact, but not what my desired. So I let go of all that, and I really worked on uh, being present with myself, watching my thinking, listening where to my own thoughts and where they took me, and aligning myself with spirit because I've always been very spiritual, and I've had tremendous opportunities just flow to me, being on summits and interviewed and podcasts and opportunities and clients, and now I have an alignment with a major organization for women in business that is going to be promoting and sponsoring, not sponsoring, but promoting and advocating, recommending my online course. So that letting go, and being in this HSP room, I actually did this about the same time I discovered Clubhouse and started attending this room and learning. I've always been a highly sensitive person, but didn't know about HSP as a scientific designation. So it just made a lot of things make sense, and it supported me in um, going in this direction of letting go, of trying to. I've never been like other people, quote unquote. Although now I find I have my HSP community, um, and we are all unique anyway. But yeah, so letting go of what did all those things that I thought I should have been in order to be successful, and it's working. So I'm Joy, and I.
Would Allison or Rachel like to share this?
I would. Hello, everyone. My name is Alison Raziel, and I am an energy, wellness, and empowerment coach for Black women and women of color. I'm also a certified Usui Reiki master teacher and healer. I am the founder, CEO, and head mistress of the Sacred Pathway Academy. Um, As far as what I ditched in 2021 was something that I I've always kind of carried, I guess, in my person. I ditched the need to save everybody, basically. Um I came to the realization that if I'm constantly in the mode trying to save everyone, like I will say in my family, and get them to understand, not just me being an HSP, but also understanding some of the things that I am now coming into the realization in this new conscious walk that I walk, um, and then also understanding who I am as a person and really coming into myself, and knowing who I am, and not just in theory, but in all things, knowing who I am now, and understanding it, and being proud of who I am and not being ashamed anymore. I realized that one of those traits of that could also fall under people pleasing is I'm trying to save everyone. I'm trying to help everyone. And I realized that that's not serving me, you know, um, because by the time I get through doing everything that I'm doing, I'm running on empty and I have nothing left for myself. So learning how to give from the overflow in my cup and not taking away from my own personal cup. Um, that has been a challenge that I've had basically for as long as I can remember. But now I've finally gotten to the place where I'm like, no, if my cup is not full, I have nothing to give, and I'm not gonna apologize for that. So I started realizing that I can't save everyone, and that I have to be fully present for my own life. Because then, if I'm living my life and living that quality life, then that means that whomever is in my life benefits. If you look at it that way, they benefit from you being a whole person, for you being able to shine and be exactly who you were created to be. And man, that took me a long time to really get to that realization and finally understand that. But I'm so glad that I arrived at it. And so, with that being said, comes the second part of the ditch, which was my full time job, because I was like, you know what? I got to do this for me. I have a calling on my life that only I can stand up and say yes to, and that's what I did. I gave my sacred yes to me this year, and so I am a full time business owner. I am no longer working a full time job, and I feel great about my life. And there is more unfolding, but I'll park my plane here for now. My name is Allison.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel, and I just have to say everything you guys shared was it really, really, really resonated. Especially what you were saying, Allison, about being more of a whole person for other people. I just so relate. Um, and so, just to introduce myself, I am an empowerment coach for empaths and HSPs and entrepreneurs. I'm also an empath and HSP myself. And I think this year, I've ditched, I feel like a lot, I'm also very spiritual as well, in addition to what Joy was saying. And I felt like spirit and the universe was kind of, I would say pulling, but it felt more like ripping things out of my life at times. Um, that were, that would make it so that I was really on the path toward my highest good without these other things sort of clouding my vision or getting in the way. Um, and, similarly to Allison, I think I always want to see the good in people and the good in situations. And unfortunately, I think there does come a time where it really stops serving us. And to try to make this quick, I actually got some health issues from all the stress I was experiencing at my corporate job. And I think for many of us HSPs, that happens, when we are not ridding ourselves or ridding our life of the things that are no longer serving us. I think spirit in the universe has a way of sort of pushing us out of it. So that happened. And then I also quit my corporate job, which was a huge move. And I was really ridden with fear for a long time, even though it was a job that really affected my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health. I just was hanging on for dear life. And I felt, a little bit of that inner people pleaser from my childhood coming up of, well, I'm supposed to stay. And this is what I'm supposed to do. That's, you go, you go to college and then you get a corporate job and all that stuff. And I think letting go of that and really leaning hard into trust. Um, you know, I so I guess I ditched a lot, but I really feel like I leaned the hardest I ever have into trust in myself, trust in the future, trust in the people around me. Um, and it's been a lot to calibrate to, but I'm also really, really grateful. And I think, you know, when things are removed from our lives and when we ditch these things, whether it's in a month or weeks or a year, I think we have to calibrate to that energy. But then it also allows us to expand so much in order to reach like that next stepping stone of life. And it's filled with discomfort often. Um, but it's, I think, one of the most rewarding things. So that was kind of a weird answer. But I ditched quite a bit and had to lean lean into that trust. So I will, as Allison said, I will park my plane there. This is Rachel.
I love it. This is Julie speaking. I just want to say, after listening to Joy, Allison, and Rachel, the common theme that I'm kind of pulling out of what you shared is HSPs need to go our own way. We need to carve out our own path. And I've said this before in rooms previous, we live a non-standard life and we have to embrace that. My whole jam around being an HSP is finding a lifestyle that works for me. I need to meet my needs first. I need to make my needs a priority because it is very easy, like we've all had conversations, even just in this share in this room, to put the needs of other people first. And when you're a deep feeler and you deeply think about everything, all of that self reflection and all of the decision making and all of that shoulding is really heavy for us HSPs. And so breaking out of the mold, really doing what is important to you, what is aligned with your values, what you believe is important in the world is important. And I really want HSPs to hear that because if there's something that's a burning desire inside of you to go and pursue, leave your job for, or advocate for, or just show up for, that's important. I think as sensitive people, we really have the ability to tap into those energies. We lean into our intuition. And I just want to say out loud that that intuition is valid and it's important for us to listen. So I love that theme. That is very much what I advocate and what I help other HSPs do is really carve around that lifestyle to support you. And that very first step is really taking the time to slow down. We have to slow down. We we have to rest. We need alone time. We need quiet time. And I'm basing all of this on what Elaine Aron suggests for us to survive and thrive. Those 5 necessities that I brought up before, rest is a huge priority that we need to make in our life. So I really love that she stresses that because I think so many times in our society and culture, we believe we need to behave a certain way. And what is valued and what is rewarded is that fast paced, go, 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 hustle culture. And I'm just here to say it doesn't work for HSPs. So it is really important for us to carve out our own path, go our own pace, and recognize that there's nothing wrong with us. We just need to lean into our biology. This is how we're made, and this is the preservation of our nervous system. So I love that Jennifer hopped up here. I would love to hear how this topic resonates with you. What did you ditch in 2021, or what did you add in that enhanced your wellness and health as an HS?
Hi, good morning, Julie. I just want to say before going to the question that I appreciate this room so much. And Clubhouse has just been such a surprising, deep healing place for me. A few years back, I quit social media for my personal stuff. I just didn't feel it anymore. And I'm just so surprised that I'm finding so much connection and healing on a social media app. So I just want to say thank you for this room. It's so special. Joy, Allison, Rachel, Julie, everything that you guys have said, it's like you're in my brain, but just very much more eloquent and able to put words to things. So just hearing somebody else's experience and me seeing myself in that experience is just so healing. For the question, I feel like the pandemic, and it's funny you say the alcohol thing because I'm so right there with you. I used to never get hangovers in my 20s, and now I literally had like a 4-ounce beer the other day, and I like that night had a hangover, like I had a headache and everything. So definitely can't tolerate that. But the big thing that came to mind was my mom. I actually let go of my mom, which was so hard because I really wanted to see what I wanted, and I didn't want to face reality because there was so much fear because the wound with her was so old. And I I basically, the pandemic, I'm like, wow, if she can't uh, see who I am and acknowledge who I am in this pandemic. And it wasn't just her, it was my grandmother, who's also another mother figure. I remember my grandma saying, well, other people are doing okay in the pandemic. Like, why, why can't, why can't you just push through? And my mom said that thing, like, just push through, just push through. And I'm like, that's so not me. And it was to the point where I broke down last fall around this time and had what I would call a panic attack, but it was felt even more, a little different from like the usual one. It felt like just a real wake up call. And I ended up getting help around me, and one of those was a therapist, and she's like, I want you to come to a place where um, you don't owe your mom anything and she doesn't owe you anything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't owe her anything. But then when it was like, she doesn't owe me anything, I literally remember the moment where I was like, that's uncomfortable because I've always had expectations and hopes for what I really wanted from her, which is to be seen and appreciated and, that kind of thing. Acknowledge that I'm just who I am. And I remember letting that go. And that was, I think, January. And I basically discovered boundaries. So that's what I brought in. So I let go of the expectation and I brought in boundaries. And this whole year, I feel like, has been realizing I just need to work on me, and I need to take care of me so that no matter what comes along, I can be strong, be flexible, be resilient, and you know get through anything. And I'm looking forward to 2022 because I want to continue going deeper within myself and learning how to ground myself and to flow. And actually, I just came off Allison's wonderful room. She did an oils for the heart chakra, and I'm new to chakras. I'm new to all this stuff, but oh my gosh, every beautiful paragraph she read about what the oils do, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to ground, I need to flow, I need to heal the mother root wound. Like, I'm loving this. I can't wait till next Wednesday for the throat chakra because that's a whole nother ball of wax. But anyway, I'm in such gratitude for everybody here, and I'm probably being judged because people are like, wow, that's crazy, because I know my family judges me, and I know maybe a few of you here and do it, and I just want to put that out there that letting go of my mom was hard, but like Julie said, like I don't take things lightly. I take things deep to heart, deep to thought, and I'm not closed off for what can happen in the future. But until I change or she changes, I can't have that in my life right now. I have to focus on my family and my kids and breaking the cycles so that the future generations can be healed as well. And I don't know if she's going to change, so I just got to work on changing myself. So thank you guys.
Oh my goodness, Jennifer, I really resonate with what you shared. I have a difficult relationship with my mom. Not that she's a horrible person or anything, but emotionally, I am very disconnected with my mom. And I can really relate to the person who shared that you should let go of expectations of what a mom should be, or my relationship with my mom. That really resonates with me. And I also wanted to mention this is a judgment-free zone. There is no one judging you here in this space. If they are, it says more about them than you. And I feel, even talking about alcohol feels very sensitive because it's so accepted to use alcohol as stress relief. But there are so many other beautiful ways especially for us HSPs, that we can de-stress and that we can calm our nervous system. And I love that you shared Allison's room, and how that was helpful for you. And chakras, I just want to mention, I am learning from my healing journey and all the experiences I've had. I keep going back to chakras. So the fact that you said that that was meaningful for you, that you were excited to learn about that, listen to that flutter of energy, because your soul and your system are reaching out for something that will be really beneficial for you. And I'm really happy that you were learning more about that here on Clubhouse. And I also want to mention your conversation about social media. So I know, as a highly sensitive person, it took me a lot of bravery and courage to start talking about this trait on social media. And I just felt like people looked at me like I had three heads. And it's been a journey since 2018, just vocally speaking up, mentioning things on Facebook, and then getting really consistent on Instagram. And then boom, Clubhouse opened up. And I don't know about you or anyone else in this room, but to me, Clubhouse really doesn't feel like social media. Um, Before, when we really just had space to speak and the room disappeared forever, and it wasn't even anything that was recorded, there was so much freedom in that. And also, if you miss a room, you miss a room. There's just not a lot of comparison, or I also like the fact that I don't have to be available visually, or worry about someone looking into my home. And so those parameters help me as an HSP to feel more comfortable in a platform like Clubhouse. And to me, it just feels kind of like an interactive podcast. And now that the replays are available, it now can be accessible to other HSPs that can't make this time. So that's where I'm excited about replays. So I hope as we continue to do replays that doesn't inhibit people from coming up and speaking. But I think your voice is really important as an HSP. So I hope, I encourage you to still come up and vocalize what is important to you and meaningful for you. So thank you so much for sharing, Jennifer. I'll go ahead and mute myself in case someone else would.
I
This is Joy. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Joy.
Just as Joy, I just want to quickly say, Jennifer, that I been through that with my mother. Didn't speak to her for years. Had to do a lot of work. So I'm with you, and it is a difficult one to set your boundaries and release, but it's so crucial and important. And I have found that while my mother has been passed on many years ago, and all the stuff that I dealt with is a long time ago, I over time I came to understand things that brought a lot of peace without feeling any kind of guilt or regret or any of that, but just it's a very complex relationship, and it's so important for you to take charge of your own experience. And also, one of the things that helped me is knowing that women have not been empowered for how many thousands and thousands of years now. And I think we're in an evolutionary stage for women in particular, but that's part of that process of why women have hurt other women. So I'm Joy.
Yes, it's definitely generational. And I feel like, in a really strange way, by healing myself, I first was like, of course, my goal is to help the future generations. But in a way, I feel like I'm healing my ancestors too, my mother, my grandmother, hers, and on and on. So.
You absolutely are, Jennifer. And that is the beautiful part about our doing the work on our spiritual, emotional journeys is the work that we're doing. It's not, it's present, it's us, but it's also reaching back and getting those deep wounds that have been passed on generation by generation. Um, Because if you're having an issue and you have a mother wound, chances are your mother probably also has a mother wound. And then her mother has a mother wound. And it's been passed on generation by generation by generation. So you have reached this beautiful point and said, you know what? It stops here. But not only does it stop here, I'm going to do the healing work so that the vibration of the work that I'm doing can be felt back in those generations. So even the ancestors who may not be physically here in this plane, but are here in the spiritual realm, can also feel the balm, the soothing, the healing that's taking place of, taking those mother wounds that you are dealing with. So I'm so glad to see you in this room, because when I came into the room and I saw you were here, I was like, yay, Jennifer's here. We just had a beautiful room. So I was so happy to see you. So I'm grateful that you did enjoy the room that I had. So my name's Al.
This is Rachel. I just wanted to add a little something as well. So, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, so I look at a lot from the subconscious mind. And I actually recently had a very similar experience with my dad. And I think as HSPs, with the aspect of, depth of processing, like we process things so deeply, and words, the way they're said, can affect us in a really different way from other people. And I think it's important to know, I have to remind myself, like, it's not a bad thing that we feel this way. It's who we are. And nowadays I feel like I try to practice so much self-awareness. And when my dad said certain things to me when I was expressing something I was excited about, a life change, and it was just in a very negative response. It was based out of fear from him. And immediately I was like, oh my god, like, I don't want to be involved in this conversation. This is so hurtful. And I had to sit with it and remind myself that those are his fears, those are his projections and all that stuff, and really separate myself. And I think there's such a balance between honoring those negative or uncomfortable emotions coming up and saying, okay, I'm allowed to feel upset. I'm allowed to feel bummed out. And subconsciously, we have this older pattern software often running in our mind and sort of in the background, because over, like basically 99% of how we operate is subconscious. And so for me, I know there are still some subconscious things from childhood or past experiences that play, that automatically just sort of, flip that switch, that go off and are like, oh, well, I have these thoughts, this, that, and the other. And then I have to stop myself and say, okay, like, this is more about him. These are his fears. And kind of just separating myself is really helpful. Almost even imagining myself like stepping away from it or looking at it from like a third party perspective, because I've learned, at least from my, just speaking from personal experience, it can feel so intertwined, right? Like, because we feel so deeply and because we feel other people's emotions often as our own, it's like it becomes very interconnected. And so I think for me, just like imagining sort of releasing that and stepping back has been really helpful. And so I just wanted to share that, so that I hope you're not alone. And it sounds like obviously a lot of us have shared our experiences. And I just really appreciate you being here, Jennifer, and being willing to open that up, because I know it's not always easy. So just kind of wanted to offer that subconscious mind perspective as well. And yeah, again, just remind you, you are definitely not alone. I think for many of us, we tend to kind of unconsciously trigger people because we have to do things differently and because we feel differently. So just something sort of I've found to keep in mind, at least for myself. This is Rachel.
Yes, actually, I feel that most in my day-to-day life with my husband. I'm so intertwined, and it's funny because I'm not used to using spiritual terms because I'm kind of a rationalist at heart, but like I really feel like I've awakened to myself, and I feel like the awareness of the subconscious at first was so overwhelming, and it was like, oh no, I have so many of these unconscious thoughts all the time. And now it's calming down a little bit because I'm welcoming them. And I think I mentioned that in a room a couple of weeks ago, where I'm just saying, okay, come on in, thought. Okay, and just be like, I see you, kind of identify it. And now I'm at this point where I am actually calming down much quicker. I'm still getting intertwined and like my if he has a big emotion, especially anything like judgment or anger or things that bring up the fear in me, um, the unconscious is like, and my body just goes into that mode too. But I've been able to like at least catch it, calm it down, and it's great because it's like it doesn't spiral into the whole, I don't know how to describe it, like drama whirlpool, of just going into the really negative unconscious place. And I'd say that's another thing I want to ditch in 2022 or starting now is fear. It's just that I think a lot of that unconscious stuff is fear, protecting myself, fear, trusting, afraid to show who I am, afraid to show emotions, all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing all of that. And I'm just going to do a quick reset here for those of you who may have just hopped into the room or you're listening to the replay. We are in the Highly Sensitive People Club, and today we are talking about what did you ditch in 2021. And Jennifer also added on what she wanted to add in 2022. So if you're looking back at 2021 and seeing what you maybe gave up for the purpose of your health and well-being, or maybe what did you add in for your health and well-being as an HSP, and then what would you like to do in 2022, whether it's letting go of something or adding in, since we're at that pivotal time of the year where the next few weeks are going to fly by and all of a sudden we're going to be in 2022. And I don't really do a lot of goal setting. I like doing themes for the year or having a word of the year or having systems in place is my jam. So I don't really like to focus so much on New Year's resolutions or goals, but really how am I going to strategically look at what is serving me, what is not, and then move from that direction. So I really like that you shared also what was important for you for 2022. And with that being said, I will go ahead and pass the mic to Lita. Correct me if I'm not saying your name correctly. And thank you so much for being patient. What would you like to share?
Hello everyone. First, my name is Lida and it was perfect. Second, my first language is not English, so anywhere you think I need to repeat something or rephrase, please let me know. It will not hurt my feelings. And so first, I also want to thank you for having this room. As an HSP, I was really looking for a group like that, and I'm glad we have it here. The thing that I was thinking about my life that I really want to get rid of it or modify the way I look at it, and I start 22 with a fresh view about that, is that my partner has severe ADHD. And if you have lived with someone who had ADHD, it can be like horrible, especially for HSPs. For non-HSPs, it is still horrible, let alone for HSPs. Let me give you some examples. For example, uh, we always like talk about we should do this chore, that chore, but he always forgets or he gets distracted by shows, other chores, or sometimes video games. So I should come and remind him, hey, you said you will do the dishes. And he says, yeah, okay, I will do that. And yeah, so I can see your mic. So and it's really frustrating that I should come and remind him because I know he's distracted, and he agrees that, oh, sorry, I was distracted, and he again keeps being distracted. And sometimes it's so annoying that even to come to the bed I should call him, hey, can you come and snuggle with me in the bed, it's bedtime, and he's still watching shows or doing I don't know, other stuff. And even for that kind of thing, I should beg him. And I can see that it's not a good dynamic, especially for HSPs. We care too much about the details. I hate that, to see that he never puts his shoes in the shoe rack while I remind him every day a few times. And or even emotionally, for example, when he sees people, he gets excited and he forgets about me sometimes. And I feel like I'm ignored, and it hurts my feelings. Sometimes in parties I act like I'm not happy because I feel like he ignored me. So these are the problems of dating someone with ADHD, especially when you're HSP. And I just found this new book, The Effects of ADHD on Marriage. I still haven't finished the book, but it's saying that sometimes you should stop nagging because it doesn't work, and you should find other ways of communication with someone with ADHD to talk about these kind of things, like having maybe a list of chores together, reminders, having weekly plans, or sometimes you guys remind each other that, hey, you're nagging too much now, or things like this. I'm not still like done with the book, but I was thinking that maybe sometimes I should ignore that he doesn't do some chores, especially if it's something that really doesn't affect my life that much. Like if he forgets about putting his shoes in the shoe rack, maybe I just practice, just ignore it, and remind him sometime that maybe he's more available, he's not distracted to do that, or I don't know, do other ways. But I'm really practicing just to sometimes ignore the things that he doesn't do and they don't hurt me in that moment. uh yeah, so this is something new for me that I'm practicing already. And the reason I came to share it first, if you are someone that you are dating with someone with ADHD, I want to tell you that you're not alone. I know how horrible it is, but since we still love these people and they have a lot of good qualities, we don't want to break up with them. So hopefully there are ways to, like counseling, like self-help books, or having some techniques and good communication can help relationships. Also, if people have other advice for dating or marrying people with ADHD, it will be also helpful.
This is Julie speaking. I'm over here laughing with you because you sound like you're describing my partner of 6 years, and we live together. And he's not formally diagnosed with ADHD, but he has epilepsy and he has had many concussions, which I think impairs a lot of his memory issues. And yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, especially as an HSP who notices everything and who feels more calm in a very tidy environment. It is important to us, and it is important that the shoes get put away, that things are in their place, that everything has a home. It just helps us relax our nervous system. So I just want to say I can relate to your experience, and I totally get it. I totally get it. I'll go ahead and mute myself in case someone else would like to insert.
This is Joy, and the one thing that I would like to say is when, um, in terms of marriage and partnerships, well, any kind of partnership, the communication is the nut, is the key. And uh, what a lot of people don't do is talk about how they're going to communicate. And when I got married, finally at 45, it took me that long to really be able to make that commitment and find the right person and all of that. But we had talk time. And this was suggested by a therapist that I was seeing at the time. And then we had a designated time, and we talked ahead of time about how we were going to communicate. And then we would have a designated time once a week. And I'm not saying everybody has to do it this way, but this is what we did once a week. And where anything that needed to be said was said, and it in certain ways, so that we weren't, yelling at each other wasn't appropriate. We would ask permission. I have some feelings I'd like to share. Is that okay? And the other person would go, yeah. And then we would talk about it. You can decide whether you're just going to talk about the emotions or express the energy of the emotions. But the idea is that you have basically a neutral territory space that's not in the moment of the event happening, that triggers a feeling, that triggers the anger or the fear or whatever. And so that you have a space where it's designated, it's like creating a container for communication. But it starts with talking through, what are the rules of this time that we're going to communicate, so that you communicate what your needs are, what your feelings are, when the other person is not in the heat of the moment where defenses come up so easily. So that's the one piece I wanted to share. My name is Joy, and I'm
Julie, is it okay if I share something? So Joy, that's so funny. I got a call in the middle, but I heard you saying the communication is key. And the thing that I related, Lita, to your story was like being in bed and like, come on, I need some cuddles. Like, what is going on? And we're busy. We're parents of two little kids. We just went through a pandemic. He's working like two jobs plus school and da 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 da. So it's like my rational brain would tell me like to excuse it, because kind of like how you have like for him like the ADHD, right? So it's like, like there's a logical reason for these things. But what I would do that was not helpful, I would try to like push through it, get a stiff upper lip, like just be like, it's okay, it's just, try to like talk to my brain about it. But then it would get so bad that I would eventually just in the heat of that moment, like totally feel devastated or angry or whatever, because it just built up for too long, and I would feel just really deprived, and I would feel so needy at that point. And something my therapist recommended was just notice it earlier, and when you notice, instead of making the decision to like be strong, wait till he's rested and tell him like, hey, I know you're busy, but when you get a chance, like I really could use a hug, and I even just tell him like, you don't know how much it means to me for the little things, like a touch or a look, or if I, you know, come to hug you, like really squeeze me back. Like that makes a really big, and that takes 2 seconds, that kind of thing. And the other thing was we have a marriage meeting every Sunday because we just have a lot on our plate with our different schedules. And we open it up with things that we find like attractive or appealing, kind of like compliments, like you're like, oh, your skin looks good, it's so soft, whatever. Or, business time was really nice this week, or, whatever, like to get the connection going. And then you talk about the second part is scheduling, like what's on our schedule for the week. And then the third part is me time, we time, to make sure that you get the me time and the we time. And we're so tight that sometimes it's just literally like, for a we time, just be sure to hug me every day, be sure to kiss me, whatever. And then because we're too tired at night to like watch movies anymore, but that kind of thing. And then the final part is bringing up one small enough problem to address, or something that you're going through where you need support. So, just an example, like let's say like the shoes, just be, gosh, those shoes are really bothering me this week. Like, can we brainstorm on that and be like, could we put a Post-it note, or do you want to put an alarm on your phone, or whatever it is, that's just an example. And we actually heard it on a podcast. I love podcasts. He listened to the Art of Manliness podcast, and it was the guy talking to the author of this book who recommended it. And so he was on board and I was on board. And that's also important, that it's not just like you or me, I should say you, that I wasn't just pushing it on him, that it was like a joint thing that we both were on the same page for. But and by the way, I'm an HSP. I am clutter blind, so not everybody's a super clean person, but I do agree that when it is clean, it is so peaceful. So that could just be part of my growth and overcoming overwhelm too. So
I think as HSPs, we're highly adaptable, and there's a lot of different reasons why. I think just part of my personality, having a mother that was very critical and being very self-conscious, it's almost been a bit of a trauma response to just have everything. But I do feel better when I have things in order and I feel like my house is clutter free. That doesn't mean it's always clutter free, but it is something that I always strive for and feel better when I get that completed. So I love that you're sharing a different perspective because, like you said, we're all different. Even though we share the same trait, we see the world differently. We have different perspectives with different relationships. But I just absolutely loved your setup for your meeting with your partner. I think that's wonderful. I'm so happy that was recorded because I would love to jot down those ideas. I think my partner and I do a very similar meeting. We usually meet on Sundays and we talk about what we're proud of one another because I tend to be a nagger and I don't like nagging. I don't like that energy, but it is something that comes out because this is a person that is most close to me. We share quarters, so he gets the shit end of the stick sometimes. And I take responsibility for that. But one of the things that we implemented to kind of counteract that was to say what we're proud of one another. And not only proud of each other, but proud of ourselves, just to take ownership and value ourselves is so important. And then we talk about our schedule for the week, and then additionally, we meal plan so that I don't have to think about food every single day and I can make one shopping trip for the week and we've got our meals in place. So I just love these little tips and tricks that everyone is sharing. And I love, Joy, that you said to even have a conversation on how you communicate, which is so important because my partner is sensitive. I'm not sure if he's an HSP, but he's definitely an empath. And so he's definitely responding a lot to the energy that I give him. And if I'm delivering something in a tone that is sharp or harmful, he definitely picks up on that energy. And when I do it in a way that feels calm and is not in the moment, like you guys mentioned, it's kind of after the fact, he receives that information in such a better way. And he even, says, I really like the tone of voice you used, or I like the way that you said that. Thank you. And so he's very complimenting when I do it in a way that it feels less damaging. So I love everything that everyone has shared. And I'll go ahead and mute myself if anyone else would like to.
I just wanted to say that thank you everyone for giving those comments to me. They were very helpful, and I forgot what I want to say. Sorry. Oh, so I remember. If we talk more about like HSPs in relationships, it will be also very helpful because one of our, I think, main struggles in life is maybe relationships with people and how we get hurt, or how maybe we don't respond to their emotions or needs because we are hurt or we are stimulated or something. So I think talking about relationships will also be.
Yes, we used to have a monthly room that was dedicated to relationships. And I hope in the new year we'll expand into more rooms. But I think, like you mentioned, that is extremely important for HSPs to just acknowledge that relationships can be a little more difficult for us. Just always being someone that is responding to the energies that are around us, whether it's a friend or a partner or a family member or a work colleague, those relationships really impact us. So I love that you brought that up, and we'll definitely be doing more rooms on that topic. I'll go ahead and just refresh the room here. We've been going for about an hour, and I know Joy, Allison, and Rachel, you kind of just popped in. So if you have to leave and you can't stay, that's totally cool. Just leave when you need to leave. And again, today we're talking in the the Highly Sensitive People Club or HSP Club about what are you ditching or what did you ditch in 2021, and what did you add in 2021 that was supporting your health and wellness, especially as an HSP? And what do you want to add in 2022? Or what would you like to ditch in 2022? And I posted a link here. I had a podcast interview with my friend Allison Cullen, and I watched her on Instagram give up alcohol for a year. And I think she hit her 1 year mark like November 5th. And it was just so interesting. She really inspired me. Like I said earlier in the room, I leaned on alcohol during the pandemic because I was one of those people who actually stayed home for 6 months and didn't leave the house other than for the grocery store because everything that I had lined up as far as my work goes was canceled. And it was just month by month, living every single month, sitting at home every day, just blurred into the next day. And so I used alcohol in that moment as just something to pass the time. And then as we moved through the pandemic, I just always had it around. And so I reevaluated why I go to alcohol. Why was I using alcohol to support myself or to create, um, to get out of boredom, or, maybe it's something fun, a celebratory thing, and then we're diving into alcohol. So it really just help me pull back for a minute and look at my relationship with alcohol, and also look at the different cultural society expectations around alcohol and how it's so normalized to drink alcohol. And I'm not judging you if you drink, because that's everyone else's journey. I just know it wasn't serving me. And so it felt so good to kind of just dedicate a time where I was like done, and I didn't buy it. I didn't bring it in the house. Luckily, with the pandemic, there's still not a ton of social activity happening in my life. I'm a homebody by nature anyway, so I enjoy staying home. But it's been something where it's surprising me that I was able to give it up so easily. And maybe it was also the spiritual path that I was on, because I know alcohol can really dampen that energy and bring us into kind of a lower energy that isn't really supporting that cosmic connection, that that cycle that we have with nature, and different ways that we can connect with our spirit guides. So for me, alcohol just wasn't working on so many areas, so it was really easy for me to make a priority of letting that go. So and one other thing I wanted to share too, we were talking about relationships. For me personally, I have learned that sleep is so, so valuable for me, especially as an HSP. And being someone that works from home, I'm an entrepreneur. I do not go to a job, I don't leave the house for a job. I really need my sleep. And when I don't get it, I feel very foggy. I feel distracted. I feel like I'm just all over the place. And so for me in 2021, another thing that I let go of was actually sleeping in the same bed with my partner each and every night. And I ended up buying a bed in September. It's been a really interesting process to make our second bedroom into my own personal sanctuary. And I highly recommend, if you're an HSP and you're struggling with sleep, that is something you want to create in your home. Not necessarily a separate bedroom, but just a place that you can go and be yourself, be quiet, be alone, be self-reflective, process information that you have gotten throughout the day, and really create some sort of practice around creating peace for yourself. And that's what this new room has really signified for me. It's not only a separate sleeping quarter, but I got a chair that I can sit in that's very comfortable for my back. I've had a lot of physical back pain since June. And really that the root of that started back in 2017. So I've been dealing with chronic pain on a daily basis for quite a few years and have not been able to get to the root cause. So those are the different things that have kind of persuaded me to look at different things to let go of. And then what I've added in I stopped drinking coffee every day, and now I drink matcha, which I really enjoy. And I think if you're on that path of letting go, it's really important that you find something to add in. You can't just take away and then feel deprived or feel like you're left out or not part of something that was maybe a nice ritual for you that felt good. And for me, coffee is really strong on my stomach. I don't feel very good. I also learned that if you're in any sort of hormonal imbalance, drinking caffeine, whether it's tea or coffee on an empty stomach, is really not helpful for your hormones. So that's another thing I've added in is making sure that I have some oatmeal. And I have been starting to use adaptogens as well, different herbs that will help us calm the nervous system. And that's just been an exciting path forward. Is not so much letting go of something and then feeling left out, but really, what am I adding in that makes me feel good, that makes me experience joy, or makes me excited? Because those are the things that you want to embrace. So make it fun, make it something that's exciting for you. If you're dragging your heels, that isn't a good option for you. Continue to search for what works for you. And I have tried everything under the moon to get better sleep, and it wasn't until I kind of moved myself into my own room that I was able to really sleep better. Energetically, we absorb people even in our sleep. And my partner also has a lot of nightmares and will flail physically around in the bed. So that was really disruptive for my sleep overall. So that's just a little bit of what I have added in and taken away. And another thing that I want to add is that I have been having a lot of conversations with various HSPs about social media. And Alison Cullen, who I did the podcast with, she is someone that is also hoping to move away from social media in 2022, at least for her business. And I feel Instagram, Facebook is extremely toxic for me personally. I know it works for a lot of other people, but that comparison aspect, or that, they're doing things and I'm not keeping up, and all of that is really harmful for me because, like I said, as HSPs, we have to learn to slow down. And a lot of the social media hustle culture is just damaging overall. So Allison and I joked around that we were going to do our next podcast conversation on leaving social media. So I just wanted to share that. And I definitely would love to have a Clubhouse conversation in January. I've already kind of reached out to different HSPs where social media works well for you, and then others who've just flipped the switch and deleted it altogether. So I think that's really an exciting thing to talk about as well, because as HSPs, obviously we're picking up on all of that energy and taking in that data, and some of it's just not beneficial for us. So I see Sauvignon has come up to the stage here. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to pass the mic to you, and you can share what you would like to ditch in 2022 or add in 2022, or what did you ditch in 2021? This is Julie, and I'm complete.
Hi, Julie. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm joining in late, and yeah, just want to support about leaving social medias. I actually did left social media, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have it on my phone. I would have it on my desktop, or I mean on my laptop, or on my iPad, which I don't carry around. So it's not like checking in 24 hours. So yeah, I think that's something. I left Facebook. I left Instagram years ago, like more than 5 years ago. But this year I also left like Pinterest. Um, yeah, those those things, which is not social media, but basically something that would distract me during the day. So yeah, more social media this year that I left. And also I have learned that apart from, I've never been able to drink coffee. I'll get really, my heart would beat fast. I get really shaky. 5 years ago, I found out I couldn't drink even tea. So I left tea. And this year, no more sodas because I couldn't take any, even a small amount of caffeine. So caffeine, like pop sodas, like Coke or Pepsi, I cannot do it anymore. So this is another thing I left. Um, and what else? Oh, also, um, some kind of toxic people. I also left. Those like those, I'm not sure whether we all would have some kind of friends who would call to use our empathy services, but I also here, if I'm not available to talk, to just lay down and close my eyes, I will prioritize that. And that's those call for empathy services. I also left that. Okay. Yeah, and this is Savani and I'm complete. Thank you.
I love that, empathy services. Have you trademarked that yet, Savigny? Um, I think that's really great. And um, I just think it's interesting too that we're talking about social media on social media. And I don't even know if you guys consider Clubhouse social media. What do you think? Are you feeling that this has the same energetic frequency as social media, or does Clubhouse feel different to you as a
No,
Yes, it feels.
yes, it feels different. To me, Clubhouse is like a telephone party. It's not social media.
I love your sayings. Wow, that's empath service, telephone party. That's awesome.
Allison, did you want to share?
Yeah, that I was basically gonna not say it the way Savioni said it, but yes, I don't really consider this social media, not really. Actually, no, we can consider this because with when you think of the word social and socializing, um the way that we are using social media really is not so much of socializing. This is really more socializing and networking than any other platform because on if you're on like Facebook or Instagram, it's kind of one-sided until someone responds to you. Whereas here we're having actual conversations, we're networking. You're going from room to room, place to place, you're making connections. You're able to actually speak to people, talk to people, get to know them, have these kind of conversations that can go in depth on a particular subject that you're passionate about. So, this to me is more social media than the traditional social media, if we want to be, I guess, technical about the meanings. Now, Julie, you did hit on something that I definitely have been feeling that I am ready to ditch. And, this is no shade or nothing like this, but I am ready to ditch all things Zuckerberg and just go here and just be living the life. I don't really get any use out of Facebook and Instagram, especially since now it's so open. And then as a business owner, you know as a HSP who is a business owner, having to go through the stress of content creation and posting things and making sure I'm learning how to do reels and posting all the stories and keeping up with all of the quote unquote things that's supposed to make me more marketable. Whereas here, I can actually do the work. I can do the work, the coaching, the healing. You know, if I want to have a room where all I'm doing is pulling cards for people, I can do that. If I have a room where, like I just had this morning, where I get to talk about the chakras and the essential oils that can heal it, and be able to help someone in the room live a better life and know that they have alternatives, I can do that here. Whereas on like social media, in the other sense, I just feel is a limitation, and it is stressful. It's very stressful. And I get tired of going through my news feed and seeing all the crap that I see, and it triggers me and it makes me, feel like overwhelmed with information. And, whenever I take a break from social media, I feel so good. I feel so light. I feel so at peace with my life, and I don't have to rush or prove anything. So, yes, Clubhouse is definitely my jam. I'm definitely rocking with Clubhouse. And again, like I said, I'm looking forward to 22. My ditch is a Zuckerberg free lifestyle. My name is Alison.
Thank you so much, Allison. I love what you shared, and I love your twist on social media and what Clubhouse feels like, more social than, say, being on, Facebook or Instagram, where you're really just engaging with what is being presented. You're not really having a two-way street conversation or connecting in a social way. And I also love, Sauvignon, where you said this is one big group phone call. I love that, because when I grew up as a teenager, we had that ability to link other people into the phone, so you could have three-way calling. And I just, as that was so important as a teenager. So it kind of just brings us back to maybe what life could be before social media, where we were actually taking the time to connect with one another through that technology, whether it's a three-way phone or now an all audio app that is global and connects us all. And that's the other beauty of Clubhouse, I think, is being able to reach people from all over the world, especially HSPs from all over the world, because we have so many different perspectives. It can really enrich our life to be connected to people on this global platform. And I also wanted to say, I once Facebook went meta, um, I saw that we were even going deeper into the realm of technology as a universe where we engage and create this fantasy world. And to me, that's the last thing I want to do. I mean, after this pandemic, I would like to enrich my relationships in person. I would love to have an HSP retreat where we all connect in person. So, this is just one leg of the race that can connect us to the way I enjoy connecting, which is in person, versus over the internet. But this allows us to at least connect while we're all over the world, and while we have to deal with what we need to deal with. Since we are still in a pandemic, this has been such a great space to connect and build community, especially with fellow HSPs. So I love that. And this is definitely a topic I would like to expand on in a Clubhouse conversation. So look out for that conversation. It'll be coming up in 2022. And also, I wanted to mention, as far as other social media goes, I love TikTok for many, many reasons. And that is one platform I do not engage with from a business perspective. It is purely for me. It is purely for me to, um, upload videos and make content that isn't attached to any sort of certain outcome. It just gives me that freedom of expression. I usually post videos around nature. And so that's just really enjoyable for me. And I also absolutely am a lover of YouTube. And YouTube, again, has been more my primary TV, um, even more so than Netflix or any of those other subscriber services. Not only because it's a great place to learn about new information and it feeds my appetite for information. I follow different people that I feel very connected to, and I love hearing their stories unfold. So it's an interesting universe that we live in 2021, and how social media shapes us and allows us to connect with people that we would never have the opportunity to connect with. So I do value that those social media platforms, and I do love Clubhouse for so many reasons. So I just wanted to plug that. And with that being said, we have about 10 minutes left in the room. Maybe we can just share here on the stage something that you would like to add in for 2022. And we can just pop around the room and add anything that's speaking to you that you're feeling called to add in. We've talked a lot about what we're letting go of, but what are different things, different lifestyle choices, healing modalities, something that would really enhance your wellness and health as an HSP? What does that look like for you in 2022? I mentioned that I was wanting to let go of social media, but one of the things that I want to add into 2022 is really taking time to create a space for creating as a processing mechanism. So, as HSPs, we're always taking in so much information. There's always so much to kind of reflect on and process. And sometimes it's just easy to get your hands on knitting needles and to knit and to just be in that meditative experience. And I'm an artist, I'm a portrait photographer, but I also do all sorts of multimedia. And honestly, art has really fallen off for me. I haven't been able to establish a space in my home that's dedicated to that. We've had several moves over the last 3 years. So I'm just really going to make that a priority, whether it's just sketching in a blank piece of paper and doodling, which is also really helpful. We had Maria in the room, and she led us through some really great ideas on creating a creative practice that helps you process. And I just love the idea of getting creative and not being attached to the finished product. So that is one thing that I plan to add into for 2022. This is Julie.
This is Rachel. I actually was going to go onto the topic again a little bit, touch on it with the social media. I personally still consider Clubhouse social media, but I fully get how it feels different than a lot of other forms of social media. I also like what Savani said of the like a phone party. It really does kind of feel like that. And I agree with what you said too, Julia, because I think with social media, like at the foundation or at the root of it, it's bringing people together in one way or another. So that's what I like about it and why I kind of consider it, I guess, all the same, but like foundationally, but obviously they all are very different. And I think, yeah, I like that it's nice that you can just come listen. And I think it's kind of the same way with like Instagram, right? Or like TikTok. It's like you can just listen to what someone's saying in a room even if you don't want to speak. Or you can have a platform or a space where you share. So um and on that topic, something I've been leaning into more and I would like to expand more into, and as I go into 2022, is I've been thinking about what content feels the best to create. And I've thought about it for a while, but I think it sort of goes back a little bit to those shoulds. I think there's this um unspoken pressure at first, at least there was for me, with starting a business and using social media as a way to connect with people and build community. And I think I got caught up sometimes in like, okay, well, strategy or stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, how I should. And I really had to come back to who I am as a person. I think who many of us as HSPs are. And that's like wanting to just connect. And, I created my business for people to not feel alone and to know there's others like them and there's a different way to live life that can be supportive and really soul nourishing. And so yeah, I've just been thinking about that a lot of like what content really like fills my soul to create. um and I am 50% introvert, 50% extrovert, or basically I'm like 49-51. So for me, in a lot of ways, it actually does feel good to show up on social media. And then it's nice, when someone's like, wow, I've always felt that way too, but I didn't know someone else did. And so I think that is like the power of it, is really truly knowing you're not alone. And I know that's been created here, and I think that's created in a lot of other spaces, with social media. So as much as there are times when I think, we can get caught in that comparison cycle, or there's downsides, I think we can come back to like, okay, well, what feels good to create and what's our intention behind it. um, so yeah, that's just something I'm leaning into, because I love a good deep post, as I think many of us HSPs do. And I love that connection aspect, and really being able, like you said, Julie, to meet people from all different places. I've met people from Australia and New Zealand, and just that I wouldn't probably meet in, just my in-person life, I guess we'll say. And I also appreciate that with different forms of content too, you can make it more accessible too to many different people, outside of just, geographic locations. So anyways, I will leave it with that, but that's something I've thought of, and I do actually have to jump out. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. And it's been so nice to hear everybody's thoughts and perspectives. And I just really value this space and this time. So thank you so much. This is Rachel. And
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for being here and popping in. Would anyone else like to share on this?
I'll go. So yeah, for me, so of course, like I was talking about ditching the that part of social media, and really leaning more into creating the content that I love to create. And I love what you said about YouTube, Julie, because that's been the place that's been calling me the most, energetically, to continue the work of adding content that helps nurture other people, who are my tribe, but also nurtures me at the same time. So I'm leaning more into creating the business my way, in the way that feels right and aligned for me, rather than the way that, I was, told that I should be doing with my business, and how to get clients. And some of that is really true. But, as a HSP, we tend to look at things differently and process things differently. And we know this. And for me, I'm always looking for the opportunity to be outside the box, instead of being kept in a box. That just box life just stresses me out like something fierce. It really does. Um, and the next thing, just for my own personal joy and experiencing more pleasure in life, I'm welcoming the opportunities to travel, and also welcoming those opportunities of travel to be opportunities to I can where I can still do my work, and still be able to help and heal. Excuse me, because that gives me a lot of joy and pleasure.
This is Joy, and I echo that, Allison, about travel. That is definitely the first thing that came to mind for me. Uh, I love that. And I bought watercolors this past year. I purchased a watercolor class, and I've never done it. And so that is my I love art too, and all kinds of arts. And so that's what I'm going to bring into my life in 2022 if I don't get there before then. This is Joy, and I'm complete. I love this room. Thank you, Julie, and every.
Um, Something that I'm starting already to do for the next year is bring in lots more baby practices and experiment, and with the goal of not a lot of pressure and really starting with like bite-sized steps. For another room that I and just a side note too for the social media thing, I look in the hallway and the hallway feels like some of the titles of the room. I'm like, ooh, that feels too Facebook for me. That feels too drama for me. So, but the rooms that I've found over the, when I came in, um, definitely does not have that feeling of Facebook or Instagram. It doesn't come at me. I feel like it's very like a good vibe. But the other room that I was a part of is called Abundance Portals Club, and Widgeby is the woman's name, and I took a class from her, and there was so much information in it. I'm kind of sorting through and seeing like, okay, what can I add in, like baby steps, and one of the things is real easy moving my body to kind of warm up in the morning. I actually just did that for the first time today. Inner smile practice, and imagining like you're in a bubble of glowing purple light. That was surprisingly effective. And by the way, again, Allison, I'm just giving you some love this morning. When you came in this room, that's how I found you. And you did the meditation. My imagination's rusty. It's just as far as like visualization, and you did the rooted thing, and then you did the moonlight on the top of the head. And I was like, whoa, there was just something that tapped into my happy imagination brain, and I could actually picture that. So, kind of doing those kind of meditations that it's easy for me, basically trying to set myself up for success, and trying to add on to my night routine, because that's my most dysfunctional. I tend to do Star Trek The Next Generation on my phone and eat. That's like my party time. So that's my me time. I'm like really excited when the kids are in bed. I'm like, okay, me time. So I want to add in something so that I could eventually phase that out, because I just can't deprive myself right now. I just I've done it before where I've been able to cut things out, but right now my body's just like not I need to support myself through this time, I think. And I'm eating healthy food, but it's still just too much food. It's just I shouldn't be eating like right before I sleep. So yeah, and again, thank you guys for the room. This is so wonderful.
Hi. Thank you everyone for sharing. It just right now I feel that what we are ditching this year and what we are bringing in the upcoming year, it feels like we are all adding space into our systems, physically, mentally, and I'm going to add this is something I already studying. I'm back to yoga and more stretching after the 2 years working from home, and by doing the stretching I can feel that I'm adding more space into my body, my physical body. So it's like for when we add space into physical body, I'm not sure it's just me or everybody feels it, that when there is a physical space in within our body figure, it feels like there's a space in our mental arena as well. So I'm gonna do more of that, adding more space. And thank you, Jennifer. I like when you say no. I'm going to have less deprivation. I don't think I can afford to have more deprivation anymore. It's eating up my space. And this is Sawan, and I'm
I love your phrases. I've just never heard it put that way, more space with the stretching. I just love that.
And Lita, would you like to add anything? If not, don't worry about it. I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you'd like to.
Sorry, I'm walking. I forgot. So is it like what we are planning to do in 2020?
Yes, just what would you like to add in or ditch in 2020?
Oh yeah. So as I said earlier, I really want to work on my partner's ADHD and try to ignore some of the things that he does. So I give him a chance to do his chores whenever he is able to do that. And one of the other things that I'm working on it and I wanna do it better next year is that I just started doing Pilates. I hope you understand what I mean. Maybe I'm pronouncing differently. So I just bought this yoga mat. I have this Pilates ball. Yeah. So it's really I try to do it like 2 or 3 times a week because I know it's hard to do it every day. It's perfect if I do everything. Maybe it should be my goal for next year. But it's like because it's focusing too much on breathing, it's perfect. I think if you want to relax, also it has a lot of stretching, and even in this a few weeks that I started to do that, I feel like, for example, in my belly there is a better muscle structure. I can see the difference in my body, and also in my mentality that how much it has strong and it's really both mentally and physically very helpful, and I'm planning to do more.
Awesome. I love that. I love that, this was also mentioned by you, Jennifer, that, it's really okay to reflect and notice what you're not ready to let go of. One of the questions that I got in the podcast that I have here linked was, what would you say to someone about alcohol and if they should leave it and ditch it? And I actually had an answer that surprised Allison. I'll leave you in suspense. I won't go into it too much detail, but I think there is a point in time where you're going to be more motivated to let go of something. And I think it's important, especially during this time with the pandemic, to just be really responsible and not to go hog wild and start eliminating all these different things that are maybe supportive for you right now. So that's why I always like the idea of what can you add in, because when you add in, the stuff that isn't really working for you will naturally fall off. But I also recommend that if you're going to let go of something, what are you going to put in to replace it? Because we don't want to feel deprived or put our system in shock because we're expecting us to just get over that comfort creature, that thing that was really feeling supportive at the time, whether it's healthy or not. So being graceful with yourself, taking small baby steps. This is not something that you have to rip the band-aid off and change immediately. And that's why I like the idea of thinking ahead and planning for 2022 and just being really gentle in those changes that you want to make. I think that's really important for us HSPs because we tend to be very self-critical. We tend to get up in our heads about what we should and shouldn't do, and we're just information sponges. So when we know more, we want to do better. So just take it slow and easy is my last bit of advice here. So with that being said, I loved the room today. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate the mods just hopping in. I know we're all under tight schedules with the holidays and all of the end of the year stuff that's happening. Look out for a gratitude room next week, early in the week before Thanksgiving. I'm traveling tomorrow, so I'm just going to let my body adjust to the different time zone that I'll be in and make sure that I can support myself before putting out that room. But I really would like to do a gratitude room. So hopefully you're following the club. If you're not, please click on the little green house and you can follow the HSP club. I'll be adding in rooms. We have a few scheduled. And as we move into 2022, I'll definitely be adding a lot more. So thank you again for everyone sharing your journey, your vulnerability, your perspective. It's all very important. And I really believe that HSPs are here to change the world. So please value yourself and your voice. This is Julie, and have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you, Julie, for having the room, and I really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Have a good day, y'all.
Bye, everyone.